So I've just come back from a wedding fair yesterday, and I wanted to put this video together whilst it was fresh in my mind. A lot of the couples that I was speaking to at the wedding fair were a little bit confused about where to start when looking for a wedding photographer. I mean, if you go on Google and you type wedding photographer in, you're just going to be hit with billions of web pages. It's the equivalent of going onto Google and typing in the word car. You're going to be hit with a lot of things. So this video is got some kind of hints and tips about what to look for, where to start, and kind of the whole process of how it all works. So once you've got your venue sorted, whether it be a church and then an after show party at a different venue, or whether you've got an all inclusive venue booked, once you've got your date, then you can start the process of looking for a wedding photographer. The first thing I think you need to decide on is style. And this can have a massive impact on how a photographer is on the day and the images that they're going to produce for you, and also how you're going to feel on the day. Now, there are lots of different styles. There's documentary, there's fashion, there's high key, there's fine art, there's contemporary. I think some of them kind of blend into one style, but you have to decide what's best for you. How do you want your images to look? You're going to have some photographers that are a certain style that produce dark images, that produce light images, that use lots of off-camera flash. And so you need to decide as a couple and figure out, how do you want your legacy of your wedding to be captured? What style? What's going to make you feel comfortable? What's going to make you feel happy with the results after the wedding? So once you've figured out the style of wedding photographer that you are after, you then have the process of trying to find someone that fits that style. I'm going to talk in this video from the perspective of a documentary wedding photographer like myself. Now, at the moment, the term documentary photography is very popular. So if you type in documentary wedding photography Nottingham and you open up 10 pages, you will see that there are a lot of photographers that are suggesting things with text, that they are a documentary wedding photographer, but actually when you start looking at the images, you can pick out that actually there's a lot of posed pictures in there. And it is very difficult for someone who is outside the industry to be able to easily pick that up. So for example, let's say that you've typed in your documentary wedding photography search and you've opened up a website, and the first image that you are hit with is a posed picture. Let's say it's a picture of a bride and groom at the front of a country house. It's lit with a flash from behind the couple. It's lit with a flash in front of the couple. Let's say that they're doing piggybacks or the groom's dipping the bride. That's a posed picture. The first picture you are seeing is a posed picture. That photographer is saying to you with the images, this is the kind of stuff I like to photograph. This is what I'm going to capture on people's weddings. The posed nature of things. If you then start reading down and they start talking about, I don't pose, I don't interfere, it's your day, you do what you want, I'm there to not interfere. And then you see an image, that has been faked, you know that there isn't a direct correlation between what they are telling you and actually what they are showing you with their images. So when you are looking on people's websites, look at what they are showing you in terms of images and look at what they are telling you in terms of their text. If they both marry up, brilliant. Then you can trust that what they are showing you, what they are telling you is true. If there isn't a correlation, then you need to figure out, okay, what sort of style is this photographer? Are they going to be more interfering on the wedding day, or are they just showing pictures of couples because couples like to see pictures of themselves? So once you have figured out your style, once you have figured out that the photographer is true to that style, then you need to have a look at the packages that they offer, and does that fit in to what you want from your wedding pictures and your wedding coverage. There's no point highlighting someone who only does a full day wedding coverage and only does up to the first dance if you actually want the first dance and the disco. So the next step I think that you need to consider is a connection. So let's say you've figured out your style, you've found that the photographer is true to that style, they offer what you are after. The next process then obviously is to get in contact and arrange, let's say, a phone call or a Skype call. On this phone call, you are trying to figure out, is this photographer right for me in terms of personality? If you are a quiet couple and the photographer's boisterous and he's very loud or she's very loud, how's that going to play out on a wedding day? If the photographer makes you feel uncomfortable, if he's said some seedy things about the bridesmaids getting ready, then again, that's a red flag, and you need to, again, consider, is that photographer right for you? Next thing on my list, I think, is word of mouth and reviews. Look at Google, look at Facebook, look at UK Bride, look at Bridebook, look at Bark, look at all the different places that photographer is advertising or is showing off their work. Read the reviews, see what people are saying. So the last thing on my list, I think it's a little bit controversial, but price. You shouldn't book a photographer purely based on price. If you do, go and find a photographer that will shoot your wedding for 50 quid and be happy knowing the risks. Knowing the risks that for 50 quid, that's not going to be great. You can go on the internet and you can find horror stories about photographers who claim to be a wedding photographer. The couple's been duped by that photographer, and, it turns out that they've never photographed a wedding before. There was a story recently of a couple that got scammed a little bit. The photographer was claiming that they were a wedding photographer, shot loads of weddings. It turns out that all the images on their website were stock images. If you've got 5 photographers that meet all the criteria, and you've got one at 10,000, one at 9, one at 8, one at 7, and one at 1,000, if all the criteria is the same, you go with the one that's at 1,000. So that's where price comes into it. But the first thing you think about shouldn't be price. It should be about the images, the connection, what you're going to get, and the feel and the fizz that you get from that photographer. So hopefully there's a few things in here that will help you start your journey in looking at a wedding photographer. It is an absolute minefield out there, and I don't envy anybody looking for a wedding photographer. For me, I try and make things simple. You go on my website, you can see what I do. You can see my price. You can see what I deliver. You can see the reviews. Everything is there for you. Enjoy the search. Look at as many photographers as you can. Get in contact with them, talk to them, then make your educated decision. And I hope you find the right one. See you soon.